The thunder exploded over the mountains as if the world were ending. In the absolute darkness of that night, an 8-week-old wolf pup named Coda plunged from a snow-covered cliff, separating forever from his pack. His desperate whimpers echoed through the valley as the storm swallowed any chance of rescue. The biting cold pierced his fragile bones. No body fat, no protection, no mother. Death seemed certain. 3 kilometers away, in the rocky caves that marked the boundary between forest and mountain, a silverback male gorilla named Baru faced his own nightmare. At 17 years old, he had lost his entire group to hunters months earlier. Now he wandered alone, carrying a loneliness that hurt more than any physical wound. That night, unable to sleep with the noise of the storm, Baru left his improvised shelter among the rocks. That was when he heard it. A faint sound, almost imperceptible amid the thunder. Something that should not have been there. Baru followed the cry until he found a small gray shape violently trembling against a rock. The wolf pup was dying. His half-closed eyes could barely focus. To any wild animal, that would be food. Easy prey. But Baru did not feel hunger. He felt something else he could not name. The gorilla extended his enormous hand and gently touched Coda's frozen body. The pup did not even have the strength to react. Then something happened that science could never predict. Baru picked up that dying wolf and pressed him against his broad chest, completely wrapping him in his arms. Heat began to flow. The gorilla's heart beat hard against the pup's ribs. On that frozen mountain, 2 beings who should never have met began an impossible story. As he carried Coda back to the cave, Baru did not know he was defying millions of years of evolution. He did not know that moment would change everything. If you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Comment below what you thought and which city or country you are watching from. Inside the cave, Baru worked for hours to keep Coda alive. He tore dry foliage from the floor of the grotto and created an improvised nest, then lay down in a fetal position, completely enveloping the pup. The gorilla's body heat was the only thing preventing death by hypothermia. But surviving the night was only the first challenge. Coda needed food, and Baru had no idea how to feed a carnivore. For 3 days, the gorilla tried to offer fruits, roots, and leaves. Coda refused everything, growing weaker with each passing day. His belly sank between his ribs. The light faded from his eyes. Baru began to panic. He beat his own chest in frustration, a deep sound that echoed through the stone walls. How do you save someone when you don't understand their needs? It was on the 4th day that something changed. Baru was hunting insects under rotting logs when he found the body of a dead rabbit, likely a victim of the storm. His herbivorous instinct told him to ignore it. The sight filled him with disgust. But he thought of Coda. He picked up the dead animal with evident revulsion and carried it back to the cave. When he placed the rabbit near the pup, the transformation was immediate. Coda dragged himself to the meat and began to eat desperately. Baru watched with a mixture of relief and discomfort. In that moment, the gorilla understood a painful truth. He had chosen to love something completely different from himself. And that would require sacrifices he had never imagined. In the following weeks, Baru developed a strange routine. He searched for carcasses, small dead animals, any protein that could feed Coda. Each time he carried that food, he felt his stomach churn. But when he saw the pup growing, gaining strength, his eyes shining again, something inside him grew calm. The true test, however, was still to come. Because in the nearby mountains, other wolves began to sense Coda's scent. And they would not come in peace. The howls began in the 3rd week. Distant at first, then growing closer and closer. Baru did not understand the meaning of those sounds, but his instinct screamed danger. Coda, now 3.5 months old, reacted in a strange way. His ears stood upright. He ran to the entrance of the cave and answered with small childish howls. The pup wanted to go meet them. But Baru knew something was wrong. Those were not friendly calls. They were territorial. Threatening. Over the following days, the gorilla observed 3 adult wolves circling the area. They were not from Coda's family. They were solitary males, expelled from their own packs, desperate to establish dominance. And an unprotected pup represented 2 things: future competition or an immediate meal. Baru made a decision that would change everything. He began to teach Coda to survive in ways no wolf would ever learn. He taught him to climb trees using his claws, something impossible for normal wolves. He showed him how to camouflage himself among rocks using mud and foliage. He taught him to remain motionless for hours, a patience that contradicted all of the pup's hunter instincts. But the strangest lesson was another. Baru began teaching Coda to recognize plants. Not to eat, but to survive. He showed which leaves could mask his scent, which roots could be chewed to quench thirst without needing to go to exposed streams. Coda learned everything with absolute devotion, his eyes fixed on every movement of the gorilla. One afternoon, while they were training camouflage, something unexpected happened. Coda managed to hide so well among the rocks that even Baru took minutes to find him. When he finally located him, the gorilla did something no primate would do with a predator. He gently beat his chest in a sign of pride and hugged the pup. That night, the howls grew dangerously close. Baru did not sleep. He stayed at the cave entrance, his massive body completely blocking the passage. Coda slept behind him, confident and safe. The confrontation was coming. The attack came at dawn. 3 adult wolves emerged from between the trees, their teeth bared, hungry eyes fixed on the cave entrance. The leader, a gray male with scars on his muzzle, advanced first. His growl made the ground tremble. They expected to find a defenseless pup. They found 200 kilos of muscle and protective fury. Baru emerged from the cave like a moving mountain. He stood upright on his hind legs, beating his chest with a violence that echoed through the entire valley. The sound was deafening. Primordial. The wolves hesitated. This was not in their instincts. No gorilla should be there. No gorilla should be defending a wolf. The leader attacked anyway. He leapt straight for Baru's throat, but the gorilla was faster than any wolf could have predicted. He grabbed the animal in midair with both hands and hurled it against a tree with brutal force. The impact was horrific. The wolf fell unconscious, breathing with difficulty. The other 2 charged together, trying to bite Baru's legs. But the gorilla spun, using his long arms as weapons. He struck one of them squarely in the side, breaking ribs with a single blow. The animal yelped and fled, limping. The third wolf, realizing the battle was lost, slowly retreated. It was then that something unexpected happened. Coda came out of the cave. The pup, still small but already brave, positioned himself beside Baru. Not to attack, but to show loyalty. He growled at the invading wolves, a high-pitched but determined sound. The message was clear, that gorilla was his family. The leader wolf, regaining consciousness, looked at that impossible scene. One of his own species defending a primate. Rejecting his nature. He dragged himself away, defeated not only physically, but psychologically. Baru had won. But the price of that victory would begin to reveal itself in the days that followed, when internal injuries began to bleed. For 2 weeks, Baru fought against the pain. One of the bites had pierced something deep. He occasionally coughed up blood, but hid it from Coda. He kept hunting, kept protecting, kept being a father. Until one morning he could no longer get up. Coda fell into despair. He repeatedly licked Baru's face, pushed his body with his snout, howled for help that would not come. The gorilla slowly opened his eyes and touched the pup's head with tenderness. In that touch there was gratitude. There was farewell. But Coda refused to accept it. The pup ran out of the cave and did something no 4-month-old wolf would do. He went down the mountain alone, crossed the icy stream, and invaded human territory. He howled incessantly in front of a forest research cabin. The scientists who came out to investigate were frozen when they saw a wolf pup practically begging for help. One of them, a veterinarian named Daniel, noticed something extraordinary. That animal was not afraid of humans. He was trying to communicate something. They followed Coda 3 kilometers up the mountain until they found Baru unconscious in the cave. What they saw there changed everything. A silverback gorilla. A wolf pup. Shared nests. Impossible evidence of an interspecies family. Baru was saved with emergency surgery. Coda refused to leave his side throughout the entire recovery. 2 months later, both were returned to the mountains with trackers and discreet monitoring. Science wanted to understand it. But more importantly, it wanted to protect it. Today, 3 years later, Baru still lives in those caves. Coda grew and became a solitary wolf that defies all logic, visiting the gorilla weekly. They share food. They rest side by side. They prove that family was never about blood, but about who we choose to love. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and tell us in the comments what you thought and where you are watching from. Stories like this remind us that love has no limits.